All right, we got to talk about the coaching.
Jim Harbaugh
changes. Yeah.
Yeah, he's out in LA now, as we mentioned. What is his impact? Do you think that they are immediately going to pressure the Chiefs in the AFC West now?
It depends on what you define as pressure. I mean, I think the AFC West is the Chiefs for the taking for the foreseeable future. As long as Mahomes is part of that unit, I think that they're going to be the favorites. But it definitely makes things interesting. And I understand that the Chiefs have dominated that division, but at the same time, a lot of these teams are within striking distance of the Chiefs. And the Raiders have had early leads. The Broncos are looking more competitive. What do you think, Chris? I mean, I think it's a competitive division. I think it's still the Chiefs.
Well,
yeah, cap issues, yeah?
The cap issues, sure. No question. I mean, a couple of these places have cap issues. I think the cap issue is the one thing keeping from this job from being a slam dunk for most people, because you look at it and you've got Sofia Vergara playing quarterback, and you're like,
Nice.
Jim Harbaugh's up there like, yeah, let me go down to LA and work with Justin Herbert. I think it's a really attractive job because of Justin Herbert, obviously. To be honest, it's over the last couple of years, and we had some reason to do it with some of the classic kind of like toe-to-toe games they played. We'd have been wrong to do it because of the head coach, but we did kind of put them in the conversation preseason a few of these years. I mean, hell, I picked the Chargers to win the West over the last couple of years. So while I do respect the hell out of the Chiefs, and I think like it's amazing they keep getting back there, they're going to have issues in the future. They got people to pay. Travis Kelce could retire. Like, there could be some changes that they have to make. I don't think it has to be year one, but I'll say this about Jim Harbaugh. People in the pros know him most for the San Francisco stop, right? He took a talented, underachieving group in San Francisco, because we played in that division, and they had a lot of players. And they were supposed to have kind of a rebuilding year in 2011, his first year. Alex Smith, the year before, they start 0-4, and people are chanting, "We want David Carr." They're saying, "We want Carr, David Carr." Okay? So 2011, he comes in. Alex Smith is the quarterback. They end up 13-3. And the key here to me is
in Harbaugh's first year.
In Harbaugh's first year, in
6-10 the year before.
6-10 the year before. Now here's the part that to me just elevates him another notch is like, that was the lockout year. You got a lot of new players. You're supposed to be rebuilding, and he comes in and he's 13-3 with Alex Smith as the quarterback. Like, I think you could argue that's the best Alex Smith played throughout his career, and he'd been with Andy Reid and that sort of thing. The next year, before Alex Smith got hurt, because in 12, that's when Alex got Wally pipped by Cap, and that was in our game. Jolon Dunbar knocked Smith out on the sideline, and we're like, oh, we knocked Alex Smith out of the game. We might win. And then this dude with an afro comes in, and he's like,
fast as shit.
Oh, my God. We were the first people to see Cap up close. And, of course, that culminates in that great Green Bay playoff game and the Super Bowl run and that sort of thing. But that year, when he took his job, Alex Smith was like a top 3 rated quarterback. So not only the fortitude to make the change, draft the guy, but to stick with him and say, like, you're a quarterback now. To get Alex Smith to a place that's even a controversial thing was incredible. 3 conference championships in a row. And obviously it kind of flamed out in 2014 because of the thing with the GM, him and Balky. The Browns were trying to trade for him in 2014. So if I'm going to sum up why he's the right guy, I don't think it's just that. It's also the fact that he's won at San Diego State.
San Diego.
He took San Diego to, a bowl game, like a real bowl game. They won like 11 games.
Probably like the Holiday
He
Bowl.
went 29-6, yeah.
29-6.
They won the Gridiron Classic.
They were rolling relative to expectation. They took Stanford, who was a bottom dweller, to big bowl games, 12-1, 11-1, or whatever they were.
Orange Bowl win against Virginia Tech, 40-12, beat the pants off them.
And how could we forget? Because we love when that happens. But also, he's just had success everywhere he's gone. He had success at Michigan, obviously. This guy has won. You could argue he's won more consistently and more versatily in different scenarios than any coach in the pro game.
And all these coaches that I'm thinking of, when you're talking about Jim Harbaugh, I think he's a quirky dude.
Yes.
And to have success in the NFL, I look around the league, and all these coaches are quirky dudes in their own way. And I think the least quirky one might be Andy Reid, and his quirks come out in the offense and just his personality. But McDaniel, quirky. McVay, definitely quirky. He reads minds, can memorize things, photographic memory.
This guy's as quirky.
Dan Campbell's quirks are violent.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh, he just works.
Khakis, milk.
He is quirky, and guys buy in. And at first, they might think this is weird, but by the end of it, they're like, "This is just who he is every day. Let's ride for this guy."
Hey, I think one thing with Jim was he still wanted to accomplish something at Michigan, and even if the interest wasn't there with Minnesota, vice versa, whether it's him or the organization, I think he wanted to finish it off at Michigan, and he did. And I think it reflects in the Vegas odds too. It went from 30-1 when they hire him to 25-1.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a great point. Usually coaches don't do that. It's usually a quarterback that makes odds jump like that. But I do think the Michigan job, not taking Minnesota's job, it wasn't a positive that Minnesota or Denver, the two teams he interviewed with over the last couple of years, had established GMs or GMs that were going to have a lot of say. And I think the way they've done this, they hired him, and you don't know who the GM is. He probably has his pick where he's this has got to be a guy who's not subservient, but he wanted full control at different points when he was in San Francisco, and him and Balky butted heads, and eventually that's what did him in. So I think the GM has to be socially intelligent where he can deal with a guy who's different, because Jim's different, dude. Even people that love Jim will tell you this guy's like a fucking alien, dude. He's just different. He'll compete at everything, including a little argument that's just got no bearing on anything.
Getting through the doorway first.
Yeah, he's just that guy.
He's that dude.
I remember meeting him, and he was perfectly nice, but you could tell that he's just guarded. He wants to win everything, even that little interaction, and you're not even playing to win. You're just saying what's up to coach.
That's a guy you want to play for, though.
But if he's on your team, and another thing is this, and another reason he butted heads with the GM, and I think this is interesting about him, he was always campaigning for guys to get paid. Older guys, veterans, get these guys their money. And I think, that can be a GM's worst nightmare, especially when a guy's impulsive and he just pops in and he'll throw a fit over a certain player. If they can form a solid bond with the GM and Jim, I think this is really going to work out together because of all of the things we talked about. Every place he's been, he's won. And I think just making the hire for the Spanos family and for Dean Spanos, who's known to be a cheapskate, it signals that he's serious about winning, because there's no way you're hiring Jim Harbaugh if you're not going to spend money on his staff and everything that goes into it. And nowadays, hiring a coach, I was just talking to a buddy about this who used to work in the front office. I was asking about the interview process, right? Because I was like, how do these guys really go about it? I've been complaining about the fact that guys get interviewed during the playoffs. Dude was like, you can't go in that thing shooting from the hip. Obviously, they're getting coached. They have a whole process, preseason, before the season starts. If you think in a year you're going to get talked about for a head coaching job, they're going to take you through a crash course. It's almost like a CEO kind of deal to be a head coach in the NFL now. You have to know everything about.
Is this a third-party training regimen?
Yeah, it's agents and that sort of thing. They have ways to get you ready. But the point I'm making is, to be an NFL coach now, it's not just scheme. It's not just I'm a player's coach. You have to understand the whole organization. And you have to understand every corner and be a leader and kind of that CEO. And this guy built Michigan up to be this powerhouse when they were already a great program.
Yeah. They were, but the 7 years before he got there, they had won more than 8 games just once.
Brady Hoke was sub 500 when he got the job.
His first year was 10 wins, second year 10 wins. He finishes 40-3, and they win the title. And there have been how many coaches to win college title and pro title?
College, 3.
Who are they?
3. We got Carroll. We got
Switzer and Jimmy Johnson.
Yep, Switzer and Jimmy Johnson. Only 3.
That's what makes him stand out, because I think he's capable of doing that. He got San Francisco to 3 different conference championships. I mean, that stuff, what he's shown at different levels of college football, his batting percentage everywhere he's gone, he's at least gotten a base hit. He's hit a home run.
I didn't realize he was as successful as he was early in
everywhere.
San Francisco. I forgot that he was in Stanford and was dominant. When I close my eyes and I think about Jim Harbaugh, I think about the khakis and the black shirt in San Francisco. When I see him in Michigan, I think he's just playing a Michigan coach character. He's back where he's supposed to be in the league. He wants to be at the highest level. He's got an opportunity now, and he's got the gunpowder to do it with Justin Herbert.
And I think one thing that people tend to forget about with him is not only has he been successful as a coach, but he played.
Yes.
You know, and he was a first round pick. He was in the NFL for a long time.
He knows the
And
pressures.
yes, and I don't think you're not hearing a lot about that, but I think that's where he comes up with trying to get these veterans paid and those type of things. So he's not only a player's coach, but he's also been there for them.
How many pro NFL head coaches played the quarterback at a high level? And I'm not saying he was a top 5 quarterback, but he was a quarterback that was a high pick and was a good player in the league for a long time. There's not a lot of former high-performing quarterbacks who become, and I'm talking about at the pro level, who become a coach. And I think that's an untold advantage.
Like I think about Nags, but he wasn't an NFL. He wasn't
Nagy.
Like yeah. But
And
I mean, to see the game through that set of eyes, to your point,
It helps.
Makes you a very sharp blade.
And I think that's what it comes down to. There's 2 things it comes down to making this hire. There's really 3 things. Number 1, we hit on it already, the team building aspect of it. He's built programs and teams. That's what they need to do. They have cap problems. They'll figure it out. They need a GM who knows how to, deal with a cap disaster a little bit. It's not a disaster. It really is eaten up in
Behind the 8 ball.
In 4 players. They're behind the 8 ball a little bit. You got 2 studs outside. You got 2 studs on the edge, and you got to figure out what to do with them. But it really comes down to team building. It comes down to fixing the quarterback, and he doesn't need fixing. We just need to cash in on this big contract that he hasn't even started to earn yet. That's just getting started. So you want to hit this window, and I know he wears people out, but if he wears you out in 5 years and you've been to 3 conference title games and you don't win one, I put it on the quarterback. Because the one difference between San Francisco and this, to me, is he didn't have a quarterback like Justin Herbert. So this is an opportunity for this franchise, and I think they went out and nailed it. The last thing is this: they play second fiddle to so many attractions in LA, like the Rams, and Rams are second fiddle to the Lakers and the Dodgers and all that stuff, and
Which is kind of nice.
it is nice for you and I. I talked to a guy that used to play there, and I was like, "How is it?" And he's like, "Fucking man, I walk into a restaurant, nobody even notices me." It's like, I'm like, "Isn't that great?"
Yeah.
Like, you live by the beach and nobody gives a fuck, and
they give you a lot of money.
yeah, and they give you a lot of money now. Taxes are different and the whole thing, but the point is, this is a business move too, and it's not primarily a business move. Jim Harbaugh,
He's a big
with
show.
a Chargers hat on.
He's the big show in
I
town.
can't wait to see it, and from a media standpoint, from a relevancy standpoint, and from hey, we're serious standpoint. I think this is the most serious thing they've done in a long time.
Did you notice he wore the skinny M at Michigan? He was the only one allowed to wear the skinny M.
You want to wear the skinny?
Everyone else
Nah,
wore
that's
the
you.
block
I didn't
M.
see that.
I didn't notice that.
44-19-1 with San Francisco. Does anybody remember the one?
The tie, it was the
44-19.
St. Louis Rams.
Jolon Dunbar
Yeah,
game.
we got a
24-24 tie.
It was a bogus, some sort of call on Danny Amendola. He went for a touchdown. They called it back. They get into overtime. They're kicking to win or something. I don't know the rules of overtime at that point. Like, I was legitimately that guy. But the last thing is this: 22 one-score games that Justin Herbert has lost, and I don't put that all on him. He went 20-10 in one-score games in San Francisco, and he didn't have one of those quarterbacks, one of these guys. So, again, I think this is a really good hire. This guy's a perfect CEO. Like, the one thing he has to do is make the adjustment from college to the pros, because that's where you lose guys. And the NFL has changed now to where now this could be a good thing. He's dealt with guys that want NIL money, they want this, they want that. The autonomy of college players now
It's the same almost.
It's almost tougher than coaching in the pros,
Yeah.
right?
Because you can lock fuckers up for 4 years in the pros.
It's
Yeah,
as easy-
you're re-recruiting your kids in college every year.
You can't hold the money
Even
over
if you
these
got 'em.
college kids' heads anymore.
Yeah. And he was the same way with paying players in college. He was just talking about paying players. So I think he's a players coach in a weird way.